Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start the session now. Welcome to AI Fights Back. This is a webinar series for business who want to learn about how AI can add value to their business. My name is Ruth Carney. I'm the Product and Commercial Director of Nightingale HQ. If you want to find out more about what we do, please get in touch with myself or Steph. What you're here today for is to find out about AI in manufacturing. I would like to, I'm going to go on to the next slide, Steph. Sorry, I would like to highlight that this particular webinar today on manufacturing is one of four, okay? And I just took the opportunity because there's a lot of stuff out there to highlight these to you today. Okay, we're very happy to be teaming up with the ICBE, which is the Irish Centre for Business Excellence, on this AI in manufacturing series within AI Fights Back. I wanted to share these three with you today here as well. If you want to register, go onto the Eventbrite link. I think the one that we just added today with Matthew from Mockingbird Consulting is really quite interesting for the manufacturing community, as well as we all have to explore social distancing as we go back to work. So check them out. A big shout out, of course, to ICBE, and if you're interested, check out their website, icbe.ie. And Aidan Kelly and his team are doing some great work in there as well. So that's our AI manufacturing. Beyond this, the series is 12 weeks. We're on week 2. I'd also like to highlight a couple of guest contributors who are coming on in the next couple of weeks. This is also really important to us as we expand the series. Next week, again, I think this is quite relevant to a manufacturing community. Keith Davey from Marina Software, is going to talk about a journey to machine learning. Again, really strong use cases, examples, and practical insights coming from telcos. He does an awful lot in voice recognition as well. And we'll talk again about a lot of the off-the-shelf solutions that are there, easily and available to use as well. So Keith's on next week. Claire Dillon joins us on the 28th of May, a journey to trustworthy AI, another very important topic. And on the 4th of June, we have Ashwini Mathur from Novartis coming in. He is the lead data scientist on the AI Dublin Novartis Hub, which is a strategic partnership between Microsoft and Novartis that's about to kick off as well. And he's going to really talk about culture change and using data science language within an organization to bring about change. So I wanted to just put the rest of the series on your radar. I know you're very busy, so I thought I'd give a very quick shout out there to the rest of the series. That's about it just in terms of housekeeping. Everybody is on mute. If you do have questions, please just put them into the chat and we'll try and answer all of them. The format of the afternoon is going to be Steph's presentation for about 30 minutes, and then we'll go into 10, 15 minutes of Q&A or feedback, hopefully wrapping it up by 10 to 4 or thereabouts. I'd like to just thank you for your time today and your support. Please give us a shout out on hashtag AI Fights Back, and of course get in touch if you want to talk about the series or what we do at Nightingale HQ. So without further ado, that's me covered. I'm going to introduce Steph Locke. She's the CEO of Nightingale HQ. She also runs her own data consultancy, Locke Data, in the UK. And she is one of 3 people in the world that's Microsoft most valued professionals. So constantly giving back to the community, which is what this series is about as well. So over to you, Steph.
Hi, everyone. So hopefully you all know what you're here for talking about AI in manufacturing. This session is aimed at the high level And as Ruth said, we have more technical or specialist areas coming up later on in the series. As Ruth introduced me, I'm a data scientist by trade. Between contract negotiations and getting to play with a spreadsheet, I would pick the spreadsheet. I know that might be a bit crazy for some, but I definitely enjoy playing or working with businesses on how we can make a difference in the way they do things. You can get in touch with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and you can follow up on email. So we're going to cover 3 key areas today. First of all, I'm going to give you a high-level, non-technical overview of what AI is. We're going to look at some AI use cases that can help a manufacturer, some strategy and tactics that you can use to implement AI quickly, and then wrap up and on to questions. So I promise you, there's no Greek letters, no maths, no pictures of neurons, except this one. This is as technical as it gets on the computer side. So you could take the cynical view of basically just saying AI is whatever's really hard to do right now. And once it becomes simple, it is an AI. So some areas that kind of applies to is things like optical character recognition. We've been putting stuff in the mail and the post office has been sorting them out by postcode using computers for a long time. The process wasn't necessarily very slick though, and there's been a bunch of advancements, but things like optical character recognition are under the umbrella of AI. So AI differs from general computing in that it performs cognitive tasks. So the 3 key areas of cognition: reasoning, understanding, and interacting. This allows us to see things happen in the world and arrive at a rule of thumb. We've been doing this since we were babies, and that kind of task is still one of the key areas of challenge in artificial intelligence. The next area is understanding language and sensory inputs. So how do we look out the window and identify what objects and things are there? That is a key area of focus for AI today. And finally, interaction. How do we provide people with an interface that uses text or speech and helps them be able to do things? This greatly increases the access to computing and technology available for people to use, as well as helping us be more productive in a wide variety of settings. So AI can be thought of as just the section of computing that mimics what humans do instead of what strict business processes do. So Zeiss do things like make lenses and have a wide variety of interests as a kind of a biotech and medical company. And I wanted to specifically mention that companies like Zeiss are stated and actively going after AI in healthcare and manufacturing companies and technologies as part of their investment strategy into their long-term success. And they're looking at computer vision and a bunch of general AI technologies, but they're looking at it for things like quality control as well. So we talked about the reasoning, understanding, and interaction, and that boils down into a few areas. Computer vision, that's the use of computers to understand what is happening in images and videos. Natural language processing is the understanding of written text. Conversational interactions are things like chatbots, so understanding what we mean and using that to route to the appropriate business process. Speech processing, things like this live transcription that's happening. This helps us do things like transcribe meetings, track actions, and make content generally more accessible. It helps us go from text to speech as well. And we're working on making human-like voices that enable us to reach a broader audience. Knowledge mining is still a key area. How do we go from all the different documents that we have in a company and enable people to smoothly find the information they need to get their job done? This is highly applicable in things like the legal field, where there is a huge amount of textual data that contains case laws and precedents, and being able to quickly extract that information helps lawyers build cases more quickly and be more productive. And then the final area of AI, which is where machine learning usually comes in, is induction. Induction is the process of seeing multiple things happen and deriving a general rule from those specific instances. So when we look at how our stock has changed over the past few years, and we use machine learning to process that, we take all that noisy real-world data and we create a set of rules for how stock will change over time. That's the process of induction. Okay. AI is not a new concept, particularly in the last AI winter happened after we tried making expert systems. So every business has experts, that your subject domain people who know the business inside and out. They can tell you why something is the way it is. They already know rules, and they are really useful for being able to say what should happen in the future. Your experts are the ones who come up with the rules, the business processes, and the flows around your manufacturing environment. And you can make expert-driven systems today, but a lot of the focus at the moment is on data-driven artificial intelligence. So when we work with data, this might be things like the temperature readings and sensor values coming from plant, or it might be your inventory system, your ERP, your customer management system, whatever. The idea is you only capture information on things that are relevant, and those things that are relevant match your company domain. So if you have data on it, it is an aspect of your business. As a result, if we can learn from that data, if we can use induction to create general rules, we can see from past processes and consequences what the rules should be. Now, because it's working on data that you already have, data-driven systems make the fundamental assumption that the future is going to be quite similar to the past. So that has a potential weakness, right? Like, we're in COVID-19, this is an unprecedented situation. If any of you have read Black Swan, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you've never heard of black swans, you should go read up on the topic. Businesses that have only been around since 2008 might not have any data going back that far, might not have any data on a downturn or seeing what a slump in demand looks like. But longer running companies with a wealth of data can use their past data to start modeling what this experience and what coming out of this might look like. So usually we try to get as recent a view of the past as possible so that we can make really good predictions about the near future. But in circumstances like this, having a big background data set that spans more than a decade can be really valuable for getting through this time. So we talked about artificial intelligence. Gonna put this into the context of some other buzzwords that you might have heard and be wondering what the heck they are. So AI is around cognitive functions. So this is how do we do things that humans do intuitively. Some of AI comes from expertise and things that we can derive from first principles. But a lot of it comes from machine learning. With machine learning, we give our computers data and they perform induction to arrive at a rule set to describe how something behaves. There is a further subset of that, which is called deep learning, and deep learning optimizes its rule generating process by itself to try and arrive at a more complicated, nuanced rule that is better representative of how the thing works. So artificial intelligence includes machine learning, but is not fully just machine learning. So there's a strong amount of overlap between what an artificial intelligence engineer might do and what a data scientist does. I do a substantial amount of machine learning, primarily with tabular data from customers. So things like data from your historians with your sensor data, your transaction data, things like that. But an AI engineer will might spend time on tasks like computer vision, where it works on more unstructured data. And then finally, the data engineer is the person who takes data from multiple sources and turns it into a single version of the truth that is usable by AI specialists and data scientists and business leaders to make decisions about what's going on. So I'm not a robotics specialist. It is a super interesting field. Some robots or automation on your system might be considered to be using AI. So if it just does the same thing again and again, and it was programmed and calibrated to work in that dedicated space, that is usually that is usually kind of a dumb robot, in that it doesn't use artificial intelligence to support varying its activities. We're getting more and more sophisticated robots every day, where they can use computer vision to be able to look at different things and determine the the strength of the grip that they use to pick it up and where it should go. So artificial intelligence is also being integrated into robotics to help support a smarter manufacturing floor. Okay, so robotics is one area where manufacturing can be making good use of artificial intelligence, but where else can we be getting, where else can AI make a dent in either increasing revenue or decreasing overheads? So manufacturers can be working with AI in a wide range of areas. So there is multifunction capabilities that are applicable to any organization. Robotic process automation is the use of software to basically write a macro that mimics a person's tedious manual task, but is usually more clever than a basic macro. Accessible meetings and things like that are also a key area. Things like these live subtitles, they can also go into other languages. Oops, shouldn't turn them off. Unfortunately, they cannot translate doggy barks into a language yet. But for instance, we can be presenting in our native language and communicating using subtitles in another language. So here I'm using Welsh. This is really useful for when you have an international business. You can greatly improve the communication between you, your clients, your colleagues in other countries. So there's a lot of scope here for accessible meetings, not just for being inclusive, but for working in a multinational scenario. So I'm going to turn this back to English. Okay. So there's things that can apply to the entire organization. And then there's some department-specific areas that you might be interested in. Procurement is always an important area for keeping costs down. And you can use AI to support stock forecasting, predicting your supply chain in terms of lead times, delays, and price variations. You can use it to optimize when you purchase things and at what price. You can also use it to be predicting demand so that you can build demand-driven models of your stock and what you'll need. In the production space, we can be using predictive maintenance and process control and optimization to reduce downtime, improve quality, and increase productivity and output. Inside HR, we can be using AI to better process and evaluate CVs, schedule interviews, do initial video interviews and transcribe them, and generally reduce the amount of time it takes to hire people. And then inside finance, we can be working on automated reconciliations across multiple systems, allocating assets to the relevant ledgers, performing more sophisticated depreciation around use-based cost of goods and things, and be better extending our reporting and cash flow forecasting. So there is a ton of areas where AI can really help your business, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth on a few of them that you can start looking at a little bit sooner. And of course, there is going to be more detail in the Historian and AI session, which looks at the predictive maintenance and using data from your plant and machinery to be able to better indicate potential quality control problems, help with process control, and so on. So there will be more on this in later webinars. So quality control is currently a manually intensive area of most manufacturers, and it is a vital one. It is not one that you want to skimp on. Quality control problems can lead to all sorts of downstream issues, and it can be life-threatening. So I'm a firm believer in augmenting your staff and helping them do more with what they have. So with quality control in processes that are supported by AI, we use the data that is available to identify potential problems and flag them up to quality control staff. We can discover root causes and use that to go and address problems, and we can use AI to be continuously monitoring for problems in real time to better prioritize quality control efforts. And AI can be used to do initial checks for things like flaws or defects inside products to help do a triage process for quality control staff. So Amgen are a pharmaceutical company, and in their manufacturing process, they've been piloting natural language processing to look at their non-conformance reports and discover quality control problems and identify parts of what's been reported that aren't necessarily obvious at a high level, but are seen repeatedly enough that they might be an area to go and investigate for quality control issues. Generative design is a really interesting area of AI at the moment for manufacturers. So if we need to be able to rapidly develop new products, we have specialist staff involved in doing that, but they have to spend a large amount of time bringing a product to market. It's a costly exercise. And this applies to things like drug discovery as well, where less than 20% of drugs make it through to a manufacturing stage. So with generative design, the idea is you specify your constraints, and then using simulation and machine learning techniques like generative adversarial networks. Just remember the GANs if you want to start looking up some technology areas. We can start optimizing towards the goal meet the constraints and the requirements. So one of the benefits of this is that the process isn't linear. It's not a rigid, strict process where, for instance, if a human was doing it, they might look at shaving width off of a bar and seeing if a reduction in diameter has a reduced weight, but then does it continue to meet the requirements? So they can, with generative design, we can iterate much more quickly and in a way that is less specifically goal-oriented in some ways, so that it can lead to more novel conclusions. And again, you don't necessarily have to, generative design is a way to augment your staff and help them do things more quickly. You wouldn't necessarily want to put a product that has been built by generative design immediately out to market without going through your usual processes and experts. So Adira Safety use Fusion 1 from Autodesk, which is a generative design package. And using it, they were able to build a new back protection brace system to reduce spinal cord injuries in athletes. Other people who have been using Autodesk were able to do things like cut 25% of the material usage out of the boilers that they were building. So it can be a really useful way for lowering the cost of goods and the resources that go into manufacturing, but also can be used for generating new products as well. Predictive maintenance is a great area where you can be using your data to be avoiding costly downtime and excess and large personnel costs from having to maintain more material, more plant than necessary. So the idea is that all of your stuff is generating data from temperature readings through to RPMs, and you're keeping logs of your engineers' call outs, what the root cause was of the problems. You've got all of that going on, but you're not necessarily using it very well right now. So with predictive maintenance, we use machine learning to consolidate that information, to start looking at what events you see, what signals you see in the run-up to a breakdown. Once you start generalizing those signals into a rule, you can then start monitoring for that pattern of behaviors and address the problem before it reaches that end goal, before it reaches that failure or breakdown. So this gives us the ability to reduce the need to have downtime for scheduled maintenance on a regular basis, because we can start moving the maintenance to when it's specifically needed. And because we're avoiding faults in time, we can reduce significant downtime and problems. So predictive maintenance is a really important area that is partly specific to your organization because it is dependent on your data, but can be a real cost reduction area. So Otis, the lift elevator company, they make 65% of their revenues from maintenance contracts. So making that 65% revenue cost as little as possible to service is really important for keeping them a highly profitable business. So they've developed their Otis One software, which for businesses will consolidate the signals from their elevators and use predictive maintenance techniques to schedule the right repairs and the right interventions by Otis, so that customers get better service and get less downtime, and Otis have to spend less time on maintenance overall, costing them less. We can be using AI to predict demand and supply for our warehouses. This is really important because we usually have a finite amount of space in which we can store things. And whilst we're storing goods, they're not adding value. So again, you usually have historic data that can be used to produce sophisticated forecasts. And we can use this data to be determining when to order new products and when products are likely to be sitting around for too long, and you can then shift them through an alternative method. So Speedy Hire, they're a UK equipment leasing company, hire company. They've used AI to optimize their inventory. And as a result, they've been able to reduce their out-of-stock products for their construction clients, and were able to provide alternatives in cases where there was out-of-stock situations. So there is a huge amount of areas where AI can go into a manufacturing business and help increase profitability. It can augment staff so that they can do more, and can help automate some of the riskier things through robots to improve safety. So if you want to be getting started with AI right now, you need to think about a few things. So the first thing is, where is there demand for this situation, for AI to make a difference? Where is the problem area in your business? Is it with quality? Is it a lack of productivity in terms of business processes? Is it supply chain optimization? What is the problem? Where is it happening? Who is most impacted by this problem? And at an early stage, do you need to be able to just provide information like a flag to say, hey, you're going to run out of stock and you need to restock? Or do you need to integrate it into your systems so that your system automatically orders the product? Doing things at the information level is usually a lot easier because you only have to be able to make the predictions and not program how to act on them. It also helps your business gain trust in the capabilities and be able to refine the capabilities before you put it into an automated environment. Once you've worked out where the highest demand is, build a prototype. Don't try to eat the whole elephant at once. Just try and solve for one thing. Make sure that you have monitoring in place. A lot of people forget that that machine learning systems need to be monitored, but you need to be tracking the inputs and the outputs and the consequences so that you can track impact, identify areas of weakness, and measure for continuous improvement. And expand gradually. It isn't very effective to try and transform your business overnight. Do it over time because there's changing culture, changing minds, and there's an increasing amount of data maturity and analysis capabilities in your staff that you're going to need to address as you grow your use of AI. As I said, data is key. What you can do now, if you don't already have this, is a log of where data is coming from in your company. Do you know what data you're getting? Do you know how quality, whether it's good quality? Is it skipping every other record? Work out whether your data is trustworthy. Consider other sources of information that can either replace your primary data feeds or supplement them. For instance, if you were working in a farming machinery scenario, you've got things like temperature, precipitation, and other things that might impact how soon equipment needs to be maintained. So consider getting weather data. And as you're starting to collect all of this data, make sure that you're building reports and increasing people's visibility of it, because the more eyes on a problem, the more quickly it gets spotted and solved. So start using the data that you're gathering to help people understand the business more, so that as you integrate AI, they're seeing the real-time impact on the systems and can flag any issues. Okay. So you're going to, first of all, work out where the most demand is. Identify the goal. Do you want to help? Do you want to inform a human or act autonomously? Do you want to reduce costs? What is the thing that you're trying to achieve? What approach are you going to take? Are you going to buy in a capability? Are you going to do it internally? Are you going to get a consultant to help? What do you need to achieve the goal? What internal skills do you have, or will you need to make this a viable, maintainable solution? Consider compliance. Any new technology, particularly in a regulated environment, might need to go through a testing or sign-off phase. Make sure you've got that sorted before you actively go out and do something. Generally, with regulators, we know it's not sensible to beg for forgiveness rather than ask for permission. Pick the right technology to meet your requirements. So if you're building a machine learning predictive maintenance solution and you want to build it internally, but your staff don't have much coding skills, consider the use of no-code or low-code machine learning solutions like Azure Machine Learning Designer to build a prototype. Design what the solution should do. Make sure you understand the critical success criteria and things like when should the system tell a human they need to do something. Build your prototype, have it working. It might do, you might have it running in a shadowing mode where it's processing the data real time, like your current system or group of staff, but it isn't in control. It's just outputting what it would have done in that circumstance, so that you can then compare what your current systems did with what the new systems suggested, so that you can decide whether it is worth putting it in a more prominent position. Go through iterations, adding more complexity to the data sets to be able to get more nuance and more predictive power. Make it work on a wider range of machinery, but give it more capability. Then work out how to make it scale in that specific scenario. And once that's been successful, you can then expand your use by going through this process again. starting with the next demand situation and trying to work that out. To get started, I usually recommend working out where you are in terms of how you use data already, because you cannot, it's really difficult to become a data science or data-driven company overnight. It takes time. So if you don't really do much with data right now, consider buying in software that already has the AI capabilities baked in. Don't try and build it, buy it. And you might outsource the development and or configuration and installation of the software to specialists. If you've got a bit more use out of your data, if you're regularly reporting what's happening, if your managers look at reports on a daily basis, and you have some IT developers, then you might want to look at off-the-shelf AI solutions like computer vision, APIs from Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Algorithmia, and use them to integrate into existing applications that do things. So this could be integrating NLP APIs into the system that logs quality control issues, and then uses NLP to tag the issue with some key terms. If you have a data warehouse and you're doing near real-time stuff with your data, and your staff are comfortable making decisions with AI or with data, then I'd recommend you start looking at AI-related analytics. So there are a number of tools which start helping staff create predictive models using their data and be able to start using them in predictive scenarios, but not necessarily a real-time situation. So that might be any business intelligence or analytics staff that you have. If you've got software with AI, you're able to integrate off-the-shelf AI into your applications, and your staff is starting to dabble with pre-built or no-code solutions, then the next step is often building your own capability, usually with data scientists who will be able to do things like the forecasting, the predictive maintenance, the quality control analysis, and be able to help you build your own solutions. If you've already got that going, then the next step is integrating real-time analysis and into your machinery or in control units, and that's called Edge AI, because the artificial intelligence is not running on a central capability, it's running on the devices actually doing things. And when you reach that stage, you might need machine learning engineers who are a bit more code-centric than data scientists, and will be able to better integrate models maybe in other languages than kind of key data science and machine learning languages, so that they integrate with your with the programming languages used to program your machinery. So there is a lot of things that you should be doing to start with AI, but the first thing is thinking about what is the important use case, trying to distill that down into a clearly scoped, small starter project to try and tackle that issue. And then depending on where you are in using data and AI in your organization, looking for either a outsourced, buy it solution through to building your own custom solution for it. There are other uses of AI as well. Last week, we looked at AI in the case of bots, chatbots that can support customer services, dealing with suppliers, reducing queries, helping people with schedules, and things like that. So I do recommend that you go and check out the AI for the chatbot for augmenting customer services as well. And marketing is also another key area, and we'll be where you can be using AI, and we'll be covering that specifically at a later date. So we've covered some of the manufacturing specific AI use cases and looked at how you can start working on implementing some of these in your organization. So you should be looking at some of these areas. Do you need to be able to view things in your warehouse? Do you want to look for health and safety hazards? Do you need to check stock levels? Do you want to understand what's in your reports? Do you want to help your customers, your staff, your suppliers interact with you? Do you need to do speech processing? Do you need to be able to predict things based on your existing data? There are a wide range of use cases for businesses generally, but I have highlighted some of the key areas for manufacturers. We've gone through the process of identifying where you should start through to building an applicable solution and scaling out and expanding your utilization of AI across the organization. And we've included at the high level a lot of information here, but there's a lot of detail that you can be going into in terms of some of the AI capabilities, reading more about how AI can help. And so we've included the links here to relevant resources. We will be sharing the slides and the recording of the webinar as soon as we can get them processed and up on YouTube for you. So there's a lot more reading around this and more detail coming up in our AI in manufacturing webinars. So as an organization, Nightingale help businesses with the strategy, culture, and skills around AI. That means different things for different companies, and we try and do that through strategy, education, and helping you work with the best data and AI experts to help you deliver real-world projects. Thank you again to the Irish Centre for Business Excellence. The ICB has partnered with us for this AI in manufacturing series. And I look forward to working with them more on our historian and AI for manufacturing a technical perspective, and Matt's session on social distancing and how IoT, Internet of Things, can support our new working environments, particularly in the manufacturing space. So thank you all very much. I think we've got time for questions.
Just about.
Just about.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Steph. So listen, we'll take a couple of questions if there are any. And of course, if people have to push off, you can get the questions to us via email and we'll answer them. The only messages there, Steph, are that you're brilliant and thank you.
Okay, so the people I've bribed are on the call. Awesome.
Well, look, thank you for everybody's time. We hope you enjoyed it. Just a very small ask for, in return for the content today. Share the series, give it to people and share it with people and businesses who you think will get something out of it. We'd be most grateful if you could do that. Thank you and have a very good afternoon and stay safe.